Thank you. I grew up in a poor household. Out of all my cousins, I'm the only one that did not end up attending prison or in rehab. Throughout my childhood, I read comic books voraciously, and I really do believe wholeheartedly that that's what saved me. When there's chaos going on around me, I spend a lot of time just diving into those comic books. And because of that, I became an English teacher, and I love my life, and I know that I owe a lot to reading. So thankfully, my parents supported me as I went through that. When I was a kid, life was a lot easier. Today, as Kelly pointed out, there were a lot of things that our kids experienced that dwarf any challenges that I faced, even growing up in poverty. I've been teaching for 31 years, and it just amazes me what my kids at Magnolia have to overcome just to come to school and make it through the day. It's a hard life. It's hard to be a kid today. I totally get that. Because it's so hard, this country has devoted billions of dollars into what we call social-emotional learning. And if you've been teaching for a while, you know there's a lot more attention and emphasis dedicated to social-emotional learning. A lot of schools are running advisement programs. A lot of schools have support networks. The interesting thing about social-emotional learning is that when you go to look at the research to see how it impacts kids, there is none. We really don't know. We're just guessing. But there's nothing to really back it up whether or not it's successful. I'm not here to judge. This is not like anti-social emotional learning. In fact, I want to suggest that there's another option that we are probably underutilizing for social emotional learning. And it started with World War I. And if you know about World War I, you know that there probably hasn't been another period in American history where people were as emotionally scarred and damaged as World War I. Great line to walk in on. So we didn't even know what PTSD was until after World War I ended, and then we had all these soldiers that were greatly damaged. And one of the things that they found was afterward, in helping soldiers deal with the trauma, that books actually pulled them out of a lot of their depression. That books had this crazy effect on the trauma that they were experiencing on a daily basis. That somehow, when they read, the books were able to transport them to another place, especially if they were novels, and especially if they were novels rich with metaphor, that they were able to relax and be calm. And if you've ever seen kids do SSR, you know that to be true already. This theory that books can have a social emotional effect on people became termed bibliotherapy and has been written about extensively. There's actually a lot of research behind bibliotherapy about the nature of books healing people. It's been written about and studied, and there's a lot out there for those that are interested. So here's my title slide. This is what I call sustained silent healing, because that's what sustained silent reading does. It heals kids. When kids experience trauma, when they experience adversity, when they experience the ravages of poverty, there's a little part of your brain called the amygdala. There's two of them in your brain, and it engages. And when the amygdala engages, everything else shuts down. This is kind of what they look like. This is the part that as educators we like to work with, because that's where you learn. That's where you learn to reason. That's where you approach things in a logical fashion. It's underdeveloped in adolescence. So if you teach freshmen or sophomores, your kids really don't have much going on there. But if you have kids that have experienced trauma, they have an awful lot going on with the amygdala. When the amygdala is growing, everything else is kind of shut down. They can't learn, they can't reason. Your consequences, your suggestions, your logic is out the window. You're done. What's interesting, though, is that they have taken a lot of research and they've wired people up to different electrodes, and they've studied what parts of the brain flare up when you read. And what's interesting is that when you read, especially novels, especially metaphor-rich novels, all kinds of parts of your brain flare up, and the amygdala shuts down. And you're ready to think critically. You're ready to learn. You're ready to take in information. There's not a lot of other ways to go about doing this, especially if you want to have any kind of long-term effect. They did one study. This is not readers doing this study. They're just studying stress. And they found that reading may reduce stresses by as much as 68%. They couldn't come up with anything else that would meet that. In other words, reading had the best success rate of reducing stress among those that were challenged. And only about 10 minutes a day would accomplish that. We all know this to be true already. If you have kids, you know when you read to them at night, they calm, they relax, and then they go to sleep. You also know if you don't have kids, you probably have time to go to a beach. And you've probably experienced this as well. When you read at a beach, it relaxes you. It calms you down. They also found that if you take socioeconomic factors and you take those away, reading may prolong your life by as much as 2 years because you're feeling less stress. So, what am I saying? I'm saying that if we increase the amount of sustained silent healing or reading, you're probably going to end up in the short term with calmer students, in the long term, more reasoned students that are able to process the stuff that we try to do as a school, and we're going to graduate people that are educated and ready to withstand the challenges of the 21st century. In my class, we read 10 minutes a day. Out of the 180 school days, we read about 170 of them. Take 10 minutes, they silently read. When they're done reading, I've got them. The rest of my class is nice and calm. Kids are ready to learn. They're ready to reason. You can talk to the administrators at my school. I've not written a referral in about 15 years. Haven't done a detention in about 15 years. A lot of that is because of the reading. Monday through Thursday, I conference with the kids while they're reading, and I take notes. And so I know my kids more deeply than I ever have before in my career because of the reading time. On Fridays, I read with them out on conference. We just all read together. So there's my thesis. Reading is healing. Thank you.